Earlier this year, I had the honor and the privilege to be on a panel among very impressive people on the show, The Problem with Jon Stewart, obviously hosted by Mr. Jon Stewart, and our particular episode centered around the world of the stock market. We talked about things such as payment for order flow, inducements, incentives, and we looked at it through the lens of what's going on with the retail revolution. Now, after that show aired, there was a pretty big appetite for additional follow-ups with the current chairman of the SEC, Mr. Gary Gensler. Well, fortunately, Jon Stewart on his podcast was actually able to follow up and ask a lot of questions that people such as you and I really wanted to know Mr. Gensler's thoughts and opinions on. And fortunately, it just aired, and I want to share some of the most interesting aspects with all of you. As a quick FYI, if you're interested in listening to the entire episode of The Problem with Jon Stewart speaking with Gary Gensler, you can find it on Apple Podcasts. Here's just a little snippet that I think has some very interesting things to say the least.
If you believe payment for order flow is a conflict of interest within the markets,
it is a conflict.
Right out of the gate, it is a conflict. The chairman of the SEC, the watchdog of our markets right now in real time, just admitted payment for order flow is a conflict of interest. And this isn't the first time he's admitted it. He has been kind of running with this particular verbiage for at least a year and a half. In May of 2021, he said exactly that about Robinhood.
Then why not just ban it and take your chances in court? Because I think what people see is this.
He has some really good follow-up here. I just want to throw out my thoughts on like why he won't just ban it and take his chances in court. Probably doesn't have the political cover fire. It's not really a secret that Gary Gensler has aspirations to go up the political rung. A lot of people are talking about Treasury Secretary. So he's being more careful, I should put it, in a political sense, opposed to maybe doing what you and I view to be the moral correct thing.
When the SEC pays $500,000 to put out a public service announcement that basically says the problem with the markets is, meme investors not doing their research, or they see you go after Kim Kardashian and get a fine on her crypto business. The frustration there isn't necessarily what you're doing. It's what you're not doing. It's not putting out a $500,000 PSA warning people that are practicing the PFOF, or warning the people that are not being transparent, or warning why aren't we using those resources to apply pressure and leverage? We're always warning individual retail people about, hey man, the market's dangerous and you don't want to get involved in this, rather than saying, let's make the market less dangerous so we don't have to warn people.
Pretty much the argument here is it's low-hanging fruit. It's so much easier to seek out an individual such as Kim Kardashian, who, let's be honest, what she did was inappropriate. She was pumping Ethereum Max. She was paid to do it. She didn't disclose that she was paid to do it, and she was fined just north of $1 million. I'm in no way defending her. What she did was wrong. My issue here with Kim Kardashian and the other stories like that, or even other individual people, is they do have limited resources. So they are using those limited resources to go for the low-hanging fruit, opposed to creating a case and seeking a case and really formulating everything you need to fix some of the issues. Like, once again, they're focusing their minimal resources. As of now, I think they have about 4.5 thousand full-time employees. So it's not like they have that much to work with. So don't you think they should be going after the bigger, more prolific, more nefarious issues, and not just some random reality star?
I believe that we're trying to do both.
How?
This agenda with regard to this stock market, with regard to parts of the market we haven't talked about, the Treasury market, or even private funds in America. The reform agenda is really critical. Our private funds market, by the way, is almost as big as our entire commercial banking sector. It's at 21 trillion. We're doing that, but at the same time, yes, we're holding people like Miss Kardashian accountable And that does send a message through the markets. We had earlier kept others accountable in the same way. I mean, Floyd Mayweather and DJ Khaled and Steve Seagal and so forth.
But those are anomalies, and maybe it's important, but it's certainly not important as holding UBS accountable and Goldman and all the larger players.
We're doing both or all of the above, but within limited resources and within a judicial system.
To clarify here, though, it might sound good that, oh, we're holding both accountable. That sounds great. But the issue is when you look into the bigger ones, when Jon Stewart was naming off UBS, Goldman Sachs, it's very akin to the world of speeding tickets. If you look at the fines, they are comically low to the point of if they're most likely making more than that, why would they ever stop this illicit practice if they are really net ahead? They are not getting whacked with these meaningful fines. It's very small in the scheme of things.
That's, people have rights and they're gonna challenge us. So
but doesn't that suggest you're going after people who can't challenge you as much?
So in terms of the big firms in this past year, we had fines for Barclays and other big banks in terms of violations of the securities laws as well. We held Allianz, which is one of the largest insurance companies and asset managers, accountable. And at the same time, holding companies like Boeing accountable for misleading the public with regard to their airplane safety. And so it is the case, and I'm honored to be the 33rd chair of this agency. I talked to my 9 predecessors as I was getting into this job, and I talked about the jobs. I learned from them ranging the spectrum, and there were some that were more aligned with the investors, and there were some that were more aligned maybe with industry across 9 chairs from the last 30 plus years. But all of them said, you're never going to have enough time. You're never going to have enough resources. And one of the things that's changed over those 35 years is that over the decades, we, the SEC, get challenged in court by the big banks, the big stock exchanges, the big fund companies, and their trade associations more often in the 2020s than we did in the prior decades. And so we're very deliberate. We're very thoughtful. We do things within the law, and we're resource constrained.
But none of this makes you think we need a different system, because if 9 predecessors have come to you and said, you will always be outmanned.
Oh, I definitely think it would be good if we had more resources, and resources would help. I think that it is appropriate to do things thoughtfully and carefully. And certainly there's changes in law from Congress that would help as well.
Very interesting if you're reading between the lines at the end there. Kind of an admission that, yes, the entire system needs an overhaul. It is easy for the SEC, with their limited resources, to go after the likes of Kim Kardashian, Floyd Mayweather, and whoever was listed, because the case isn't going to be that difficult. It is the definition of low-hanging fruit. And then, as Gensler admitted, when they try to levy a case against big banks and related organizations, well, they're going to be in the case forever, and they're going to hire top-end law firms to defend them and drag it out. So in this particular circumstance, it's the way the game has been set up that these powerful organizations with teams and teams of lawyers, well, they're like, all right, if you want to bring something against us, you better get ready for a knockdown, ugly fight. While on the flip side, someone like Kardashian is going to be like, okay, cool, I'll pay this fine and I'm going to move on with my life. So with it, there's a lot to be said. And I know watching this, you're going to be like, okay, well, how do we get the positive steps forward? Honestly, the fact that we're having these types of conversations does make me hopeful. It truly makes me hopeful in the sense that, okay, as our voice gets louder and louder, and as we continue to have consistency and don't quit on the fight, there's going to be more pressure that all of a sudden the dynamic can change. Now, obviously, I would love to hear your thoughts below. Do you think this was positive? Do you think this was negative? But before I let you go, I have to share one thing with you that I thought was insanely humorous about this entire thing. Check this out. The clip we just watched was posted by The Problem with Jon Stewart at The Problem on October 11th, if you want to check it out. And of course, remember on Apple Podcasts, you can find the entire thing. But when I looked at this, one of the top responses, at least that the Twitter algorithm served to me, was right here, warning people about the PFOF, the payment for order flow. Yes, this is very informative about the level of journalism that we expect from a late night comic. Of course, has to be a dig. Gary Gensler, why are you bothering with this nonsense? Come engage with the industry publicly with facts and data. Now, if you look at it, it's from Doug Sifu, who happens to be the CEO of Virtu, the number 2 market maker currently in existence. It goes Citadel Securities, then it goes Virtu. So of course, the person who is making billions a year is going to say, no, this is dumb. You shouldn't be warning people about it. Talk about the lack of journalism. This is the joke. Because when in reality, when you look into what they're talking about as facts and data, you start to realize how messed up PFOF is and how messed up the overall system currently is. Now, that's what I have for you. I just thought this was funny and I just wanted to tag it on at the end of the video because, of course, they're arguing for their own bottom line inherently. Now, don't forget, if you enjoyed this video, it'd be awesome if you could help me out by hitting that like button. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video.